What's up? Welcome back for episode 7 for Appropriate Culture, where we're going to be going into Big Tech Part 2, Censorship. Let's go. And we're live. What's going on, my friend?
Cheers.
Cheers. Delicioso. Okay. Big Tech, Censorship, Part 2, Episode 7. Get us going.
All right, so last time we got into big tech and basically how big companies have changed the way we live, and more recently have changed the way we vote, the way we communicate important things like throughout our society, and there's basically been a lot of people who have been essentially just wiped out off of certain social platforms and just totally censored with under the guise that they're spreading either misinformation or disinformation, but there's not really clear rules about, a company or a social platform like banning somebody or erasing somebody from their platform. So that's really, I feel like, the place to start today.
Have you seen any specific stories that have happened recently in regards of big tech and censoring?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it happens like every week somebody else gets censored. But recently Robert F. Kennedy just got taken off of Instagram. He had like 1 million followers. And he wasn't like spreading any misinformation. He was just sharing like doctors that and studies and, things that maybe didn't go along with the mainstream narrative. But I was pretty confused because actually, there's some other sites that like share the same type of information.
Is it like necessarily politically driven?
Politically, it's he's a politician, you could say, but he's like an advocate for. He's basically, I think he was like, one of the people leading the charge for like suing Monsanto for, I guess, poisoning people,
killing the world.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. It's like there's some people love him, some people hate him, some people think he's just another pawn, but I like what he's doing. I feel like he doesn't really, he tries to just like not be swayed by what people think of him, and just like I feel like he's honestly trying to do good and fulfill his purpose for being here.
So let me guess. He never got a clear reason as to why I got taken down.
Yeah, I mean, well, as far as I'm not sure.
Because it's normally how it happens.
But I think it was he was spreading misinformation. But
and that's the problem.
Yeah,
misinformation.
He was literally just sharing like studies and like stuff from other doctors.
Yeah, that's always their fallback.
But yeah, he didn't get banned on Twitter, so he has like 200,000 followers on Twitter. So and then he also has a podcast actually. I'm not sure if he just recently started it or what, but I think a lot of people have gone to his podcast because he's no longer on Instagram.
I can definitely say for a fact that at this point, people are well aware that there is something going on some level in regards of agendas on the back end that seem to consistently take out certain types of people, personalities. If you start to get a little bit too outside the box, I don't even want to say too outside the box, but 2020, I saw firsthand how they can imply this the censorship. And it goes everything from just demonetizing your video to ghosting your channel to just turning off your account for a few days where you don't even have access to it, or just permanently banning you altogether. And so I guess the question here lies, we live in a capitalist country. And according to these capitalist rules or ideas, each one of these companies have their own private belonging into this country as far as how they do business, because it's privately owned. Now, here is where things get a little bit dodgy. They're getting involved into circumstances that are getting put on the chopping block in regards to free speech by itself. And so in certain cases, they'll play the game like, we're just out here providing a platform, but then at the same time, they're going out of their way to sometimes silence certain types of content. And at that point, nobody knows, okay, are you public, or are you actually got your own private situations where you want to go with and you have your own rules, and which one? And so they willy-nilly just kind of one side, other, depending on what kind of case shows up.
Yeah, they're basically doing whatever benefits them.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, so so it comes down to like, are you a publisher, or are you just a public platform? And so if you're a public platform, then it all goes. Free speech.
Yeah. You
don't let anything out unless it's straight up the stuff that we talked about other episodes, like beheadings and stuff like that.
Yeah. So along those lines, Poland, I think, just recently, I think they're the first company. They have issued, or they've proposed legislation. I don't think it's passed yet, but that
I saw that
any social media company would get fined. I think it was like $13.5 million or something like that.
It's a good amount.
If someone, it's a good amount. If like they ban someone from their platform for any reason other than something that was illegal under Polish law.
Yeah.
Which I think that's like, that makes sense. It's like,
I think one case was a 100,000 in fines for each case for each day that it continues.
Yeah.
So if one person got banned unjustly for 2 weeks, there you have it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Times 100,000 each day just for that case. That's how much they would get hit. And this is actually a law that's starting to get passed all over. I mean, this number is not necessarily for every area, but you get what I'm saying? Like, they're going for the big penalties on this one. Like, if it's going to go through, it's going to be some nice, hefty ones. Because, like I said, they have been caught multiple times playing the game of, no, this is our private company. We can say what we want. And then switching around like, no, we're actually just a public entity. We actually really just want to provide a platform, and we just let people do their thing. And this is what is. And so we've seen huge public figures, especially over the last few years, just have their whole channel taken down. Yeah, they don't have access to it. I've had certain of our videos get flagged or put stickers on.
Yeah. So I mean, who do you think the major, like the most influential people who have gotten just like wiped?
I think an easy one right now is Trump.
Oh, word, yeah.
I think for sure that one's like one of the biggest ones.
Trump, got taken off Twitter while he was still president.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, by then they had already been putting all the emphasis on every single post saying Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, no.
Is the president-elect.
He technically was still president for like 14 days. Yeah.
They knew he was, and so here's the thing. The reasoning why they finally were able to do it apparently was because the final straw was him having that tweet that, I guess, incited violence for the Capitol Hill riot. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So if you're going to do that, then you would also have to do it to someone like Kamala Harris. Where all 2020, when she was talking, she actually tweeted several times saying things like, who said protests need to be peaceful? Saying things like go out there and get it, and all kinds of other things that are right along the side of what he said.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Oh yeah. And so it's very funny how they pick these rules for who they pick these rules for. And obviously Trump had already a better record.
I mean, I would be interested to see her tweets. I mean, like, because Trump is like.
Oh yeah, no, I'm serious. You
like,
can find not only that, you can find all kinds of other people, like AOC, for example. Oh, she would get banned like that if that was applied the same way to her.
Yeah. I don't
know.
Yeah. I fucking love AOC.
Oh, that's fine that you love her. It doesn't change the fact that if that's the rules they're going by, she would get hit first off, chopping block.
I mean, she doesn't really. I don't feel like she's ever incited people to violence.
Oh, 100%. If you're saying that what Trump did, she literally would take the cake with the king of the type of person who posts the type of content that incites violence. I wouldn't say in every post, but goddamn near all of them. And so they're charged. They're so charged. It's not even funny. But I digress.
She's not like telling people like, hey, let's go storm the Capitol.
She's saying a lot of things just like that in many other ways, even worse, way worse. But anyways, that's not even about what I'm saying here. She's still saying all kinds of crazy shit. He was saying crazy shit, but he's getting taken out due to the single fact that he's not doing the right political move for that platform that they're about. That's what it is. So did you know that every single one of these companies that we're talking about, they're all 100% democratically owned?
Yeah, word. I mean, but it's like...
So explain that part.
Wait. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like,
so that's what I'm saying. Explain that this is the part of the censorship.
It's not...
Is that people are saying that the free speech is getting willy-nilly just handpicked. And as soon as you're not going with the correct approach of, in this case, your values and political values, you're getting ousted.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying basically is if
whatever party you're for is going to highly dictate how long you can go around and act like an asshole. They're both assholes, but for how long they can go for in that platform, it just goes accordingly to what party they're about publicly. And if they're lying about it, I don't care. Yeah. But publicly.
So you're basically saying it's like as far as you're in terms of these tech companies, pretty much all of them are liberal, and so that liberal, propaganda or whatever is, welcome and, promoted and, whether it's true or not, and then anything like Republican is like highly scrutinized or like pushed down or completely omitted or deleted.
Now, here's the thing.
That's what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Okay, that is exactly what I'm saying. And so if it wasn't for the fact that all of the major companies that you're not going to be talking about tonight, the ones that fall into the big tech category, none of them are owned by known right-leaning, politically driven individuals. None of them. Zero. None of the ones that fall in the big tech category. And so that alone is alarming. Now, I'm not saying that is inequality. It just so happens to be what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think people who are in the, who work at tech companies or start tech companies generally tend to be
more progressive. More on the progressive, more on the liberal side. And that's totally fine. And so if that means that, I guess this might be an interest. So if that means that more, I guess for the lack of a better word choice, more right-leaning individuals start to create companies to rival companies that have this sort of approach in order to sort of balance things out, or let the courts rule every time and see what happens, just by not creating any more competition with other companies that provide the same type of service, like Parler, who got taken out.
Yeah, they're just
and they were right. And for the record, Riley, yeah.
Yeah, word. Yeah, I mean that's real. It's like
and who took them out? All the companies we're talking about.
Yeah, word. And that's, I mean, if there's not really rules about it, like why would they not though?
Oh, for the record, Parler actually, I just got some update, and it seems like there's gonna be a little bit of a comeback.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah,
there's gonna be a little bit of a comeback. They're not going down, yo.
Yeah, word. I hope so. I really hope more. Like there are more, and not necessarily conservative, but like people, just like of different types, who really get into like computer programming and.
And for the record, so I don't want to get too caught up with the whole right left thing.
Yeah, word.
The whole thing with Parler even became a thing because YouTube was censoring so goddamn much.
Yeah, word. What's the other one? The
other platform?
Yeah, that's supposed to be like YouTube. It's like bit something.
BitChute?
BitChute,
yeah.
Whatever happened with that?
There's a bunch of different ones that are options. I guess the problem here is this.
Wait, why are we not on there?
It's just kind of like an inactive account. We have stuff there. Yeah. You can find some of our content there. We were going to start launching all the same time. The week we launched this podcast, Parler got knocked. And so we basically checked our account, couldn't even get in. It was literally down. And I looked at you and I'm like, okay, I guess we don't have Parler.
Right.
I'll check back in and see what's going on, but I forgot to check back in. Long story short, do you think that, I guess let's try to figure this out in a sense where here's the constant attitude I see going around when it comes to this, which is a lot of the cases people are just going about saying, well, they shouldn't have a platform to say those things anyways. And that often comes from a leftist point of view.
I mean, if it's like inciting people to like.
No, we're talking. We're talking about like your average college student saying things that like someone like Ben Shapiro. And then when he goes into a college, he gets an entire riot showing up. Basically all saying, we don't want you to say those things over here. And this is a Jewish family man who, in every case, will try to go 100% just by having a conversation with you person to person. I don't care what you think about the person's ideologies. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is his channel, one of the most popular channels on YouTube, on Facebook as well. He has been showcased several times and having the top most shared videos for the day, and somehow continue to be suppressed.
Like they just made his videos not show up?
Yeah, so they'll do the monetization stuff. They'll flag the video. They'll I guess call it ghosting, right? So certain amount of your fan base gets to see it. So if you have 5 million and they'll show it to like 100,000 people or something like that. Mm-hmm. People don't get notifications sometimes. There's all kinds of stuff they can do. But for some reason, here's the thing. To be fair, I have heard that recently a lot of left-leaning channels have been getting outs too, like Antifa type stuff. Some BLM type, like activist, like some of the stuff that's been getting shown to actually not only promote, but set up events that completely end up turning violent. And so it's 100% inciting violence. They have a whole documents being shared on the things to wear, the things that are going to happen, the whole 9 yards. And so when you link all that, like you cannot just leave those channels going as well if you're going off of people inciting violence. Because some of those channels are like over the top on the inciting the violence sort of
yeah, it's
attitude.
funny. I mean, it's like from what I've seen, it's like they really use that as an excuse to conveniently like remove channels they don't like. Yeah, because like I've seen channels
some of the Antifa
promote,
stuff,
promote like natural like health stuff, and they are really skeptical of, of the World Health Organization or the CDC, and just like don't, or just trying to do their own research or try to figure stuff out. And so they're like sharing alternative views, and yeah, like I feel like there's a somewhat silent, covert war against like people promoting natural remedies.
So there's that too, yeah.
So yeah, it's, I guess it goes back to our conspiracies episode.
So I mean, the whole big tech is like it's a very marketing word, if you know what I mean, when it got created and thrown out into the world, as far as what that meant. How far do you actually think we are down this road in regards of, can any of this even be reeled back and controlled anymore?
Yes and no. I mean, it's like the companies are so influential that, the government wants their money. They're not gonna go to war with these big companies, like, because these companies have spent, millions, collectively probably billions of dollars, on essentially lobbying and like basically like doing things that will cause these politicians to rule or create legislation in their favor, or not create legislation, which all like just to leave stuff alone. And so it's like there's so much money. It's like the politicians aren't gonna like be like, you can't do this, impose all these restrictions, because like they showed with President Trump, like they have the power in that arena. Like, you can cut the president of the United States off of your platform. Turn it off. 80 plus million followers, like,
crazy.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's crazy.
And so yeah, it's like they're like, politicians aren't trying to go to war with them, and like
But I've seen specific laws come out for protection on politicians not being able to get ousted in social media platforms.
Yeah. Word.
Actually, the $100,000 fine one a day, every day that it continues, was the one that I read.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so this is happening as we speak.
Yeah, I know legislation will happen for sure, but it's not gonna, it's probably gonna be slaps on the wrist and like, kind of tone it down. And then because I don't think any company is out there doing super nefarious stuff like with the information, or with their platform, or their like system, or even their like the way they make money, unless those companies are already working with the government. Companies like Palantir, or is like I was just reading about them because of their stock, but they do like crazy research and like basically aggregate data, collected from, people's cell phones and all this stuff like you're seeing these movies about, and then like use it, like essentially use it to predict patterns and stuff. It's like, that's the stuff that's really scary when you talk about big tech. It's like they know, it's like they're listening to us right now, like, well, apart from us being on a podcast, as like they're, we have multiple microphones, multiple cameras, like anytime, we're not using those, they can, peek in. It's like, yeah, it's like how you don't even know who's watching. It's like, that's what the really scary thing is.
That is creepy.
So
especially if you got like the Alexa really or that type of stuff. If you have
any phone.
Like phones, for right off the bat, laptops, anything really at this point. And so
that's scary, and that's why there should be legislation.
But here's the thing. That would be under an umbrella idea that sort of encompasses the entire direction of that company. Mm-hmm. I would go even as easy as on an individual level. You're project manager now or whatever, but we all have our ideas. We come in with our biased opinions. And I just honestly think that you can't just keep looking at the whole company as a whole. You need to start finding specific individuals within these departments who are in charge of this stuff. Because here's what happens every time. Big tech hides behind big tech.
Yeah, and they have, a lot of times they have fucking just millions of dollars.
Too much money for them to hide behind all kinds of lawyers and stuff like that. And that's the problem, is we never end up finding out who's actually calling the shot on ousting that video that just got way popular, way fast, and it got flagged and got taken out. Who made the call on that? That's what I want to know. Who made that call?
Yeah.
Was it just AI? Or was there an actual human on the screen that looked at the content and was like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And out.
I think it probably was more likely that,
The second one?
I really don't think they're AI. I mean, for certain things, if it's like super violent or, like sexual, like I feel like they'll probably, like AI and their, algorithms will flag it. But a lot of that other stuff, I think maybe it gets flagged for review and then someone checks.
That's what I think happens. And it's like, so, for example, let's just look at.
It is some. I really think it is essentially some random person. Who's anonymous. Also, it's like, how do you who the fuck flagged my video? Like, when there clearly was nothing bad in there. Maybe could have just been some asshole who didn't like your video. Maybe it's like I'm posting, a vegan recipe. And he's like, "Oh, fuck vegans," and
yeah,
but
misinformation.
Not saying that happens, but I'm saying it totally could, and there'd be what the fuck could I do about it?
Yeah, you can file your complaint.
Yeah,
whatever. And that's not gonna do anything. You don't get any real answers on any level. You gotta have such a big channel for them to even care to reply to you in any sort of sensible way.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're being too hard on them. I'm also super grateful for these platforms. It's the fact that technology has connected people. It's you can reach so many people so quickly, and also it's those platforms kind of build on each other. It's we're releasing a podcast on multiple platforms.
Here's the problem,
and then
though.
Sharing it on the social platforms.
Here's the problem. Many other individuals at this point can create other platforms that can communicate and do these things like we're doing in Facebook. Facebook is not the only company that can really do what Facebook does. They came in at the right time. They built their brand. They're an absolute giant, and that's where they are. The problem here is the data mining. Data is the oil of the 21st century.
Right.
And at the end of the day, these individuals are well aware of this. They're well aware of this, which is why they are going to keep playing these sneaky games that I keep talking about. Just we're this type of company when this happens. We're this type of company when this happens. And they're just dodging, just all the way to the top. And so I don't mind you killing in the capitalist system. Now, if you're going to profit off the data that you're getting from your users, either it has to be 100% clear that that's what you're doing.
Right.
And the person says, I agree, keep doing it. I don't mind. I just want to use your platform.
Yeah. Yeah, which I feel like they're, anytime something that happens, they're kind of sneaking that in. Now everyone, you have to agree to their cookies,
Well, I've seen a lot of companies especially last year, but in the last 6 months, update their terms of agreement.
Yeah.
And I actually am now reading this stuff all the way through, and I can't believe more than half of the stuff that's in there. I literally, I'm like, why the hell would I agree to this? You want all of my contacts. You want full access to the app even when I'm not using it.
Yeah, right.
You want access to all of my files plus all of my extended. It's just I'm reading this. I even read one that said we're going to be sending your the full information to South Korea, and I'm like, why? I understand that the company's probably from there, but it's at this point, it's they have to say a lot of these things now. And if you actually read it, you're I don't feel cool with any of this.
Yeah, and think about how many motherfucking apps people have on their phone. You know, like all of them it's like they're all probably collecting something.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Some apps are a little more ethical than others. Some are literally built on the basis of being saying they're more ethical. But I'll be honest, I don't see big tech letting up anytime soon, no doubt about it. Do you see any new companies coming up and sharing the ring with some of the giants?
Oh yeah, I think new companies are gonna pop up. I think they,
Okay, but look at TikTok, for example.
Yeah.
The one that the fastest growing platform, like in the last few years, a year or something. Chinese.
Yeah.
One of the biggest totalitarian controlled places when it comes down to controlling the people through their system. Big tech.
Yeah, I mean, and so, well, talking about tech in China, it's been a lot of like speculation on whether the country's just gonna allow tech companies to keep growing and do whatever they want, or if they're just gonna come in and take over, or like impose,
Are you referring to companies in general from China or just TikTok right now?
I'm talking about tech companies from China, like Alibaba or
Huawei.
JD.com. Yeah, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a case in its own. Yeah, we could do a whole chapter on just China alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, but I really feel like China, they're probably really thinking about what's best in their long term, and I think it's really best for China for these companies to thrive and to dominate. If they can,
Their companies.
Yeah, like they really versus international companies. So
for the record, I don't know if everybody knows this, but every company that is Chinese has to give all of their information to the Chinese government.
I think they have to make it available. Yeah.
So here's what I'm saying. Be aware of that. That's actually a rule. I'm not. Look it up.
Word. Of course.
They put it to practice. Let's put it like.
Yeah, word.
They understand the value of this stuff, and they are gonna soak it all in on any level that they can, right up until the level of full extortion.
Yeah, word. Well, of course.
You don't think the government has gone up to Facebook at one point when Facebook didn't want to collaborate with everything they're told them to do, and at one point they start to get some threats on some level? I think that stuff could happen.
I think they would just do what they can to just hack Facebook. Like, I don't think they would really ask. I think they'd probably But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want the government to want to be, trying to get.
As soon as you have information that the government is like, whoa, we didn't think of that, or we weren't able to get those type of results, and they start to tell you that the information that you have is in some sort of way breaching contracts and breaching laws, therefore you want to play it cool.
So you don't think Facebook was created by the government as like a...
Oh, whoa! You were going out there right now. So have you seen the movie The Network?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Justin Timberlake and what was the other guy?
Justin Timberlake was not on that.
Yeah, he was. He played the Netflix or not Netflix.
Okay, correct. He was at yeah. And Zuckerberg's story.
Yeah, what was
the twins.
What's the other guy's name? That's so funny. Anyway, so go ahead.
No, I guess what I'm saying, because you brought it up. Do I think the government perhaps started Facebook? Well,
that's
because that story that was not told
theory.
at all. Word, because that wasn't in the movie on any level.
Of course, there's a movie about it. Yeah, that even adds to the conspiracy theory of fire. I'm just saying.
Okay.
A lot.
Who funded the movie? Right. That's it.
Word. Yeah, I've seen theories that the CIA basically created Facebook as a way for people to spy on themselves, to give up all their information so they could instead it was how do we get information from everybody and give instead of having to spy on them and piece it together, let's get them to put it in a profile and give it to us.
Okay.
That's the theory. Because
So that would actually make
that would
sense.
be fucking genius.
That would make sense because I've always wondered how Zuckerberg, out of all people,
I don't know. He seems like a genius, yo. I think he.
I don't know, man.
And an opportunist. I think he really, like.
There's some weird things going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know, some reptilian vibes going on, but there's.
Yeah, he's definitely. I think he's some sort of starseed, maybe like on the self-service path, but.
I could say for a fact that when you're receiving big tech money, that's next level kind of money. I mean, you are in your own bracket, so to speak.
Yeah, we're in.
And so, at this point, when it comes up to that type of revenue, almost any of these stories, on some merit, could be valid.
Yeah.
As far as like people would go to extents to do these things for that type of return.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it's just crazy that it's, because with a digital platform, you can reach millions, or billions of people essentially all at once or instantly, And so...
I can say this, though.
The fact that even if you got $1 million, if you got $1 from, 1 billion people, you got $1 billion right there.
These companies are definitely still... in their own ways, going head to head because, look at Facebook, for example. Just recently, the Apple system for iOS got updated where they were essentially able to now block Facebook out of getting data from their users.
Oh, dope.
So here's what that did. What's Facebook's number one way of making money? Advertisements. The advertisers, their ads for the last, since it happened, all started to tank as far as results because it messed up with the whole algorithm. So it's a real jab. It's a real jab, and almost 50% of the users use iOS devices from Apple.
Oh wow, that's big.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. That is a straight punch to the gut, and they're feeling it because I'm in the marketing industry for online ads, and I can say that just within my vicinity of clients and people that I work with, close to 90% of overall clients have pulled back on their marketing ads, meaning they either completely took it off all the marketing budget and they're putting it out somewhere else, or they've almost brought it down to zero as far as how much they're putting in right now because the return is so abysmal.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you're a huge company that it just kind of doesn't matter, perhaps you're not experiencing some of those results. Do you know when
that happened?
Yeah, it's pretty recent. Over the last month and a half.
That's interesting because I noticed a change in Instagram over the last month.
Yeah.
It's just the way it...
Are you getting hit with weird ads and stuff like that? Stuff that you don't normally get hit with?
Yeah, I mean,
less personalized?
Kind of. I mean, I always get hit with weird stuff, but yeah, just I feel like the way posts are showing up and I feel like people's accounts, are I'm not seeing the same stuff or as much stuff.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I can just say that these companies are all strategically playing a chess game to just make an extra bill, $2 billion here and there, so they can, stay ahead of the curve. So they're fighting within each other. So I have to believe that at least some of them are either privately owned, like Apple, obviously a public company now, but started with a private idea of who started it, not the government. Or would you wager that they're all being pulled strings by the government on some major force, and therefore it does not matter who owns it, it just gets swallowed by the big entity?
The cabal is basically in charge of all these companies. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, that's totally plausible. It's they all, I feel like they could all be friends or maybe not all of them, but yeah, I feel like, what's good for a lot of them is good for, what's good for one of them is good for most of them. And so I feel like they probably look out for each other. Like, well, try to push for legislation that kind of helps tech companies in general.
Well, they definitely got to get around to updating the legislation for this area, because it's not
not up to par.
Well, it's not up to par. It's so every industry, every work industry, every area where money's being made, there's some sort of oversight where to keep things at least somewhat fair.
Yeah.
Across the board, not a lot of fuckery happens on the back end.
Right.
Well, we have that implemented to pretty much every career out there and line of work that is not online and online driven type stuff. So even though we definitely are getting taxed as online businesses, there's still a whole lot of things that are happening in the online world that are not getting regulated at all.
Right.
Especially when it comes down to data mining. That is an area right there that is the most profitable, the biggest reason this is all happening, and that is the most unregulated one out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, where would you start with that? It's like, in order to regulate it, you'd have to have like some background knowledge of it.
It's a huge situation. Yeah.
And I feel like it'd probably have to be like someone who worked at a big tech company and was like, wow, this shit is fucked up. They have everyone's information and they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. There needs to be laws about this stuff.
100%.
And then they wouldn't like go essentially try to.
I mean, for the people out there who think it's not that much of a big deal, I can say it like this. They have the stuff set up, let's just use Facebook, for example, to the point where they could look at their data. They know exactly when you're going to go to the bathroom. 100%. That's just how much data you're giving to them that they can know by looking at it. Lucas is going to go to the bathroom. Yep, there you go. He did it. Boom. Now he's going to, there you go. He did it. We are beings of repetition, and we constantly give data, like you said, to be studied to see how things are happening in the future.
Yeah, man.
Which is why they're able to show ads to you, because they already know, pretty good idea chance that there's an 85% chance you want to buy those UGG boots. And they'll throw that in front of right when you want, because you saw that. And so there's people talking about that type of stuff, saying that they're honestly convinced that their phone is listening to them while having conversations with people, and they go on their phone minutes later and boom, an ad for something they talked about with the friend 10 minutes ago pops up.
Yeah, that's not a theory. That's like
that has been happening left and right.
Instagram, Facebook do that. Yeah, like I think in their terms of service, they let you know that they're doing that. Like it's definitely I feel like a couple years ago that was a conspiracy, and then like I looked it up and it's like, yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Oh no, I mean, think about it. Why would they not set it up that way? These are really good microphones.
Yeah.
And it has text-to-speech ability. So these machines are literally not only taking in the audio, but then writing it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like there's sometimes when I swear I didn't even say it, but it's like probably they have so much data and they know like all my other purchases and, movements and everything, that habits.
Do they have so much data they could probably bring it back up like a 3D like vision?
I know, right?
That you could like walk into a room and bring that.
Me.
Have you seen that movie with Denzel where they're able to get that much data and therefore they're able to rewind time, but only one time? And so, anyways, that's the essence of the idea, where we're gathering so much data from these electronics that we're actually able to rebuild reality based off of the data that we just got. Almost where you can even see the difference.
Right.
But that's getting a little out there.
Yeah, we're
whenever I see you looking off into the side, I'm just like, I
was watching it.
I went out there.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Right.
Definitely recommend it. And so when it comes down to, for example, things like Alexas and all these different high quality microphones that are there to pick up. You could say what you need to say in a very low tone.
Yeah.
And it will hear you just fine.
Yeah.
And that they say it's not picking up audio.
It's not recording.
Not recording, it's not intaking any data. I guess it's recording wise while you're not using it.
Yeah,
but then if you think about it, you're like, but it has to be listening for the cue when I do say the cue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always listening. Yeah, I mean, that's just creepy, and there's not legislation about it. I think, yeah, we really need legislation about, like, what they can do, how much they can listen to, who has access to it, like, how protected it is. Like,
yeah, like, I mean,
if it has to be encrypted on certain levels, like, yeah, all that stuff needs to be, developed. And it's really, I think, is because tech has just advanced so quickly in the last few years. There hasn't been, someone in the legislation who's like
every time
aware of all that stuff enough to, write the laws.
Every time you watch a person in Congress interviewing a person from big tech, and they're trying to, not interviewing them, they're in the court of law, and they're trying to understand what they're even having a meeting about. And you're watching the questions being given, and the person trying to understand and you're like, these people are not qualified.
Yeah, and that's why we need more younger.
We need
professionals
in this matter.
It's funny.
You cannot have the 65-year-old person who can't even log into their Facebook account trying to understand why is. You feel me? What I'm saying, dude?
Well,
like,
so what's funny is talking about technocracy. Our last, episode on big tech is like a technocracy. Technically, is a government run by a group of technical experts. So it's like if there was all big tech, not big tech people, but like people who are like specialists in their field, like that's technically a technocracy. And I'm like, yo,
100%.
That actually sounds pretty dope. Like people who are hella smart and like experts in their field, like I would love that.
It sounds dope, but then you make a full circle, and now we have to make an episode about censorship and how it's 100%.
Well, it's what I'm saying is, as far as the people in our government haven't been technical experts, they've been politicians.
Well, I think the ones on the front end that they want you to look at are the ones who are doing that. All the black operation stuff, like all the high budget stuff, I think they have some highly intelligent people working in those things.
But those
Very
people
smart.
aren't elected.
Right. No, I'm just making a note that, like, there's two levels of government here that we're talking about. There's the government, like DMV type stuff that you deal with, and then there's like high level black operations government. Those are two completely different human beings, the type of people that get picked for those jobs. I mean, there's some government jobs where you walk in there and you're like, I can't, like, what is going on right now? Who just helped me? Like, what was that? And so the energy in some of these buildings is hilarious. It's just defeated. It's like nobody wants to be there. But if you're doing the stuff where you're working with like alien stuff, everybody wants to be there for the most part, I guess. There's exciting type work. You probably have worked your...
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Perhaps we are going a little bit far off to the left here.
There are plenty of people, I feel like, who enjoy their government job, who, just want a kind of mundane, work experience and something that's just kind of steady and stable.
It's just a stereotypical, like, DMV experience, you know what I'm talking about. Like,
which is why every now and then when you encounter someone who's just like a ray of sunshine at the DMV or somewhere like
it's
that.
It's a miracle.
Just like,
it's
wow,
an absolute
you're
miracle.
Awesome. I've literally like commented to people, be like, you rock. Like, you're amazing. Thank you.
100%.
You made my day.
So I do find it funny how there are theories like the government actually started things like Facebook. But at the same time, when you watch any sort of Congress situation where they're having a hearing and you watching the people who are trying to understand and question them, it's an absolute joke most of the time. Yeah. They're actually trying to understand social media as a whole. It's weird.
But yeah,
and you're like, there's a lot on the line here. You shouldn't be learning about Facebook as a whole now. It's impossible to get down to the correct questions if you're coming in with less than a baseline knowledge on what this stuff is even all about.
Yeah.
And so it's almost kind of comical to watch this stuff play out. And then you have Zuckerberg just sweating, drinking water in like the weirdest way the whole time, giving these very elusive answers that just sort of...
Yeah, he's kind of a master.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
dodging questions.
And so you watch this and you're like, okay, are we really trying to get to the bottom of this, or are we just playing game here, trying to showcase that?
They come in really trying to get the bottom of it, and then within like 3 or 4 questions, they ask like 3 questions. Zuck Dog's like, no, not to my knowledge.
But we'll look into it.
And then they ask him, he's like, well, how about at this stage where there was supposed to be 30 developers here, and you had 50 and blah blah blah, or like some random thing. So it's just bad. Like, actually, so we were ahead of schedule, and if there's more people, there's actually more. Like, you just like explain it in a way that like makes the questioner look stupid, and you're just like, damn. And then after that, it's just like, well, like, yeah, how are you gonna question him? He's like, he really is a master of dodging questions, and he's like a genius, He's a billionaire for a reason. Like, he created Facebook.
Well, do you think the theory holds that you brought up?
That the government, CIA,
is actually...
No, I don't think that's real. I think Mark Zuckerberg...
So you think he actually is the pioneer of the idea?
I think he basically took a few ideas that were already existing and then worked with some incredibly genius programmers to create this platform, and then kind of like...
Okay, so if that's the case...
push people out at strategic locations, at times. And I really feel like he, it was like, by a lot of people's standards, would be, shady, but like,
that's just business.
That's by the American capitalist system, it's like, hey man, like he did it, and he's one of the richest people in history.
So if that's the case, it is probably, we could argue that with how much progress this company has made and on their own level of success, but specifically on what I'm talking about here is achieving things like gathering massive amounts of some of the most, let's just call it the most valuable data that you can get your hands on as an entity that controls, in a situation, a country like the government.
Yeah, and I mean, Facebook is like, literally, they control more resources than a number, like, it's probably most countries.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'm saying here is, I find it hard to be able to disconnect those two things. At one point, even if it was privately started, like what you just said, which I do think so, like that as well, in this situation. At one point, when you're hitting too much revenue, you're too big of a company, they know how you're getting your money, they know the basis of now. At one point, there's got to be some sort of approach where you're not just giving taxes every year to them, but like they are contacting you in some private level, and some deals are getting worked on the back end. Like that has to happen.
Of course. I mean, well, think about Amazon not really paying any taxes, like one of the biggest companies ever with like, crazy amounts of revenue. Like,
it has to happen.
Yeah. I mean, and that, it's funny, we didn't really even talk about Amazon or Bezos on the last one, and like...
I mean, we can dive in right now. What do you want to... I mean, they provide, I don't know if people know this, but Amazon has one of the biggest contracts for data storage for the government.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, of course, it makes sense because they got their fingers on everything at this point.
Yeah,
and so, but like I said, for any of those companies, the individuals who are running them, if you really came on a private level and you get to the whole $1 billion club, so to speak, you have to have some sort of serious approach by the government where they're like, they're not fucking with you like a regular company. Like, this is like, it's past that.
No,
it's way past it. Like, they're like, no, here's how this is going to work. If you want to get things, if you want to continue making money, we're going to need these things to happen. And if it does come to the point where people are creating companies that are so successful like Facebook, like Amazon, and it's actually not the government on the back end, I find it hard where that meeting doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I bet there's, there's probably a wide variance of, CEOs and companies that are willing to, work and like make shady deals and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like Tesla, and Elon Musk, he doesn't seem like someone who would be like, oh yeah, like we'll just do whatever you want. Like,
No,
but I mean, yeah, he does also, he will take advantage.
Here's the
of
thing, though.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, no.
You often want to look at the bigger picture sometimes and look at your family's health, so you don't put them in danger. Mm-hmm. So you kind of play ball for other reasons that go beyond your personal.
You implying that just like you might just like wake up or not wake up one morning, or
your
family,
yeah.
Which
and for the record, those type of things have happened. There have been many cases where inventors of different types invented something that's not supposed to come out on market yet. And the government tried to buy out the technology so the person could just hush and go back to your life.
Yeah.
But if the person does not take it, what happens after is up to the situation, I guess.
Suicide.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. There's one of the channels that I'm kind of surprised hasn't gotten banned yet. That is one of my favorite for like alternative health news is Health Nut News. I think I mentioned them in a previous podcast, but yeah, they I was just on their website and they recently posted a story about, I guess, a physician or a doctor, I think in Italy, that just like randomly like killed himself and his kids, and like there was clearly like a struggle like in the apartment or whatever. But it's just like just stuff like that. It's like it probably happens a lot more than you hear about, and like that's just hella scary, But yeah.
Well.
Anyway,
have you ever had any of your stuff censored?
Not really. Only for copyright infringement, like probably years ago.
Music or information?
Like flyers. I've posted flyers with logos and stuff, like back when I was doing.
I will say this.
Events.
That's good. Okay. So wait. So you got flagged because of what was on the flyer? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Like, I will give, like you said, we got to give some credit because the value that we also get from it is immense. I guess the final argument here is just to talk about, are we really doing things on an ethical level? And that doesn't just go for big tech. That goes for all businesses operating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're.
Are we doing things just ethically?
Yeah.
Sure, we're out here to make money. I get that.
Yeah.
But at one point you got to draw the line on a few things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like, for the most part, companies haven't been doing things ethically. They've been really just doing whatever is most profitable. And like, as far as like spying on people and like using data in ways that's like really, kind of shady or questionable. And so I really feel like we need legislation and, we need people in the government who like know like how to create the legislation or like know what to what to make rules about. And so yeah, it's like I feel like it's gonna be a lot. Like we need more young people like in government who really know right, like about the technology.
I do want to stress though, we need more people who are actually coming in with it's hard to say because you can't say without an unbiased opinion, but that seems to be an overall root of the problem. For this type of position that we're talking about, it has to be individuals who are actually here for the greater good of everyone and individualism as its own nature. Mm-hmm. Meaning, going back to the whole being ethical, you're not picking things apart because it doesn't go along with your ideologies, but that actually got voted off because it's illegal. Mm-hmm. The content that gets flagged is what I'm referring to, and the moderator who's doing that on the back end.
Yeah, we're not based on someone's opinion.
Not based on that. And I think that's the overall issue that I think nobody's really diving in, because ultimately somebody's clicking those things in the back
So
end.
no, actually, it's funny. The person, I forget, it's like the Polish something minister who was in charge of that stuff in Poland, who created the legislation, mentioned that he's like, it's basically some random person, like some anonymous moderator who like you don't know, and it's like based on their opinion or their judgment. Like how is free speech supposed to be left up to just some random person in there
Exactly.
sitting at their computer?
And there you have it, folks. Part 2, big tech, censorship.
Yeah. Peace, guys.
Peace, guys. Take it easy.
Peace, love, bliss.
Thanks for watching this episode from Appropriate Culture. If you want to watch other episodes, make sure to make your way to appropriateculture.com. You can also hang out with us in other social media platforms. They're all in the link in the description. And aside from that, if you want to listen to the podcast on other platforms like Audible, Spotify, any of those, you can also find us there as well. Link in the description. Take it easy, guys.